Coming up this week on the Digital Lifestyle Show 841, Gary's here. We've got lots to talk about. A massive build from the Windows Insider team of Windows 11. Lots to talk about on that, plus an update that was out for the release version of Windows 11 that put some new features as well. Talking about something new that I've got on my desk. Talking about EV news and lots more. So let's get straight to Gary. Gary, good evening.
Good evening.
It's just us for the next couple of weeks as well.
It is, yeah. Rich was away for a couple of weeks, but that's fine. He's enjoying himself. It's good.
We'll let him have 2 weeks off.
Yeah, he deserves it.
Yeah, he does. And we've got plenty to talk about. I think the build team, the Windows Insider build team, need a couple of weeks off with the amount of features in the
stuff I've been showing you
build last week. Yeah. So we'll be talking about that.
We had a week off news last week and needed to give us some.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. The last week's show as well, really got some really good feedback on last week's show as well. Really did enjoy talking to Clint on about Power Toys. So we had a lot of good feedback on that. So we had some great feedback on that. So that was a fun show last week. So I've made sure I've got Power Toys installed on all my machines now. I feel especially something. Well, yeah, there was. I was like, I think I started to use the space, the quick launch thing, and I realised I was on a machine. I thought, I haven't got that, and I think that the old double click for the mouse pointer thing, when you've got dual monitors and you're losing your screens, you're losing your pointer. I think is brilliant. So I'm really pleased with that. So. Yeah, I'm glad we got that on there. So, yeah, it was a good show last week, and we did enjoy talking to Clint. So, thanks for Clint for joining us last week. Well, I've got something to show you as well. I've not got this set up yet, but there we go. I can see there.
New toys.
New toy, yeah, not even opened.
For the listeners who haven't got the video, you're showing a Surface Studio box.
Yeah, it's a Surface laptop Studio. It's completely sealed, unopened, untouched yet. But my plan is to get that set up tomorrow and have a look what I can do with that. So I finally got one. I went with the 16 gig, 512 gig drive one because my laptop 2 is constantly filled up, sometimes quite often by your high quality videos, which
yes.
My running virtual machines off an external USB drive has always been a bit of a pain, so I'll be quite glad to have those on there. So so that's my job for tomorrow, is to get that set up and running. So, and I've got the pen as well, so I can get into that as well. So actually, with the first machine I've got that ships with Windows 11, everything else has been an upgrade. And I think I'm planning to shuffle around my build ones, because all my dev builds are on this Surface Go, which isn't supported at all. But it's kind of grandfathered in, so I've got that on there. But it is getting a bit sluggish now, so I think I might switch this laptop to dev, and then a virtual machine for beta and release preview with the laptop Studio. So something like that anyway, so I can capture those bits, because we might get to potentially get new bits on beta that we wouldn't get on dev and vice versa now anyway. So got excited to set that up tomorrow. So yeah, we got quite a bit on of new Windows things last week. So we'll talk about the February update, which we knew was coming, but is here now. And in fact, if I hover over my Edge window now, I can share that just with one click now using the share button, because it's built in. So we've got some new features that came through for Windows Insider last week. So let me share the screen now. There we go. There we go. So have you tried this out yet? This was an update that came out for Windows Insiders on the release preview last week, and then the week before, and then it came out last week for general Windows users. But yeah, it's here. hasn't really got a name as such. I call it the February update or something like that. But we've got the new team sharing features in there. I don't know if you've seen that.
I haven't played with this at all yet. And, haven't had an incredibly hectic week one way or the other, but I definitely intend to, and it looks really good.
Yeah, so I don't know if you can see down here on the bottom left, I've got the clock, the calendar, the weather icon with the quick access. You notice I've got a clock down here on the right hand side, and this is my second monitor that I'm sharing here now. So normally you wouldn't see, normally you wouldn't see that. So that's a new feature. I don't think this works because I'm sharing at the moment, but if you hover over an icon like this, one of those, and you weren't sharing, there's an option to share it directly because you're in a Teams call as well. We've got the Teams muted icon in there. We've got the new Notepad app. Let's have a quick look. I think we did talk about this on a few shows ago because I think Richard was a bit horrified.
Richard's not sure, isn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Hi, Notepad app.
Yeah. So here's the new Notepad app with the settings icon over here. Supports dark mode, you can have it dark mode or light mode or the system setting. So it's got that new look, and we've also got the media player app, which is probably more interesting for us. So I know we did talk about this, but this was when it was first in release previous. So there we go. We've got the new media player app, which is the rebranded Groove app that was the rebranded Xbox app that was the rebranded Zune app. So it has its roots in Zune, and it's not a brand new app actually. I think it is pretty much an evolution of those others, but in fact you can probably recognize some of it. But yeah, it's had that modern look to it again. It supports all the themes, just like the other apps. It's all got nice curved edges in it as well. It's got your media player. You can play music. You can play video. No cloud playing though, so there's no Spotify integration or anything like that. It's really just for local files. I pointed it at. You can point the folders here at any location. So I pointed at my OneDrive folders. And in my OneDrive folder, I've got a music folder where I've still got loads of music installed in there from when I used to have everything local, when we used to have MP3 files. But I found it didn't see them until you sync them locally. So kind of not the way you want to do it. I think the Groove Music app would do it, would see the cloud stored version of it and play it.
It would do, yeah. No,
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's okay for that. It does allow you to do the metadata. Actually, it's quite good for metadata editing. I notice you can. I think these are probably podcast files, but you can do your kind of metadata editing and things like this on here as well. So it's quite good if you want to do a bit of local editing, and it's got video playback as well. So it also supports video, whereas the old one was just for music. It remembers where you're up to. If you start watching a movie and then you close it and then go back to it later, it'll remember. But if you start watching a movie, then open it up and listen to some music and then come back to the movie, it just starts at the beginning again. So I think I had a couple of questions about that. But it's got that sort of new modern look, and I suppose Windows obviously needs a default media player. If you double click on an MP3 file, this will be the default one. So actually, it still says Groove Music in some places, like here, the store. It still says Groove Music, but I'm sure they'll get around to changing that because it's got the new icon. But yeah, so movies and TV still exist for playing video files. But that seems to be more about the content from Microsoft as well, although it will play local ones. And this one just does everything. So it supports playlists and queues and that kind of thing. I don't know how much people are still using local music files. I suppose not everybody's on streaming services, but if I use Spotify now, so it has to link on there. So I've no use for this really, apart from playing local files. But yeah, it's got a nice new look, and it's got all the things you'd expect on it. So that's quite good. So that's now coming down if you're in the new app, if you're in the update. So most people should have had that by now. And I said you can tell because you'll get the little weather icon down the bottom left, and that's the visual indication, and the sharing icon. So that was the that was the main one we had for all Windows users. But for Windows insiders on the dev channel, we had a really big update last week. So have you got to try this one yet?
As I said, I haven't really tried anything yet, but I really want to have a good look at this because there looks like some amazing stuff in here.
So I'll show some of it on the screen, and I have got my Surface here with them on it as well. One of my favorite things I can show you on the video is, and I'll show is you can swipe up to get the start menu. I don't know, I'm kind of holding it backwards here, but there you go. Swipe up from the taskbar to bring up the start menu. And I don't know whether, I think they might even have this on the blog post. I'm not sure. But anyway, we'll go through them. So yeah, so especially for audio listeners. So this is build 22557 for Windows Insiders on the dev channel. We didn't have a build for a couple of weeks, and I think what's happened is we've changed branch, and we're now on the NI release branch instead of RS pre-release. Although Microsoft say that this is now irrelevant, and they'll be no longer noting these branch changes. So I think they're saying don't watch for branch changes. But my guess, and I've nothing on this, is that we're looking at now development work for 22H2. So this is, some people call it Sun Valley 2, which is our this is the first major update to. I know we talked about updates already, but this will be the sort of first big update to Windows 11 that will come out later this year. With no ARM build of this at the moment as well. So if you're an ARM user, you wouldn't have seen that. So what's new in this build? Well, there's a ton of things. One thing I do really like is you can now create folders of apps, very reminiscent how you could on Windows. On Windows 10 on the start menu, I've got folders here. That's I know I'm sharing the screen at the same time, but I've got folders on my Surface Go here, which is organized a lot better. You can see it here on the screen that I'm sharing. So you can just drag folders over, you just drag icons over each other, and it creates a folder. And considering the sort of limited functionality of customization options with the start menu, actually, this has worked really well for me, because it was always, I always found it a bit of a pain when you had, some of the icons were always down at the bottom or off screen. You've got to scroll. Well, of course, now you can group them. I've grouped my entertainment apps, all the media player and all those. I've grouped Android apps together. You could group the Office apps together, like Microsoft done on these examples. So you can group them all together. You just tap on the group, and they pop up in a window, and you just launch the icon. So it's a bit just similar to how it was in Windows 10 or in Windows Phone. Actually, for Windows Phone, that's where the original design came from, wasn't it? You just drag icons on top of each other and create folders, and that's what you've got. So I really like that. So it's something actually. I was thinking, it's one of those things. I wish I actually had that on my production machines now, because I'm enjoying that. And like I said, the other thing on the start menu as well is a swipe up. So you swipe up. I don't know if it included this in this post. Yes, they have. Yeah. So you swipe up to bring the start menu up, and you can swipe down to dismiss it. And you can swipe left to bring up the all apps list, or if you swipe left over the recommended section, it brings up the recommended section as a full list as well. So these are two gestures that, especially on a device like the Surface Go, work really well. So it's just, swipe up, it's there, swipe across, you get the list. And it's something I really missed from Windows, sort of go back to Windows 8 almost, isn't it, where tablet experience was better than Windows 10. So it's not quite as rich, but it's definitely something that I would use. But even on a Surface laptop, something just with your finger to swipe up rather than hitting the Windows key could be quite good. So that I really like that, and I think that's a welcome addition to Windows, especially for tablet PC users. The other thing they introduced, and to be honest, I only use this occasionally, is do not disturb and focus. So they've got rid of what was Focus Assist, and it's now called Focus. And I used the do not disturb to stop notifications popping through, especially I'm doing video or something like that. I don't want to keep popping up. But they've combined that into a focus area where you can allow notifications to come through. You can have it on a time schedule. You can do music, can't you, with Spotify and that kind of thing. So I don't know if it's something that you use in Windows when you're deep in your coding mode, whether the do not disturb is something you would use.
Oh yeah, something I use a lot. I mean, I'm virtually always in focus priority only anyway.
Yeah,
but
it just stops that noise.
Yeah, I'd like to actually see some more of this. I think it'd be this looks really cool. Actually, I think this is my good reason to upgrade to Windows 11 if I could on some of my machines.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot better. It's a lot easier to understand as well, and to see when you're in the do not disturb mode. So and you've got the focus sort of things where you can say I want a half an hour session with some music on, and then take a break, and all that is built in. So it's definitely something that's worth looking at, and they've really improved it on this as well. Something else which I found which was really interesting, very science fiction like almost, how good things work. It's the live captions. You can just turn on live captions with a key combination, Windows Control and L, and it picks up the default sound card and gives you live captions. So this isn't, so if you're watching a video or a presentation or even with your microphone, it will give you live captions. You can have it at the top of the screen, the bottom, or a little floating window. But I found this work really well. I know they've got this kind of thing on YouTube, but this just works using the sound card. So it'll work with anything. Even handy if you've not got hearing issues, but perhaps you focus on something else, or you want the text, you can't, you're in a noisy environment or something like that. I think it's great that they've got it there, and it's great for accessibility. So, and my brief experience with it is it works really well. So I was trying a couple of YouTube videos that I recorded, and it was picking it up correct. So I think it works really well. So a nice feature that, especially for accessibility reasons. We also have improvements in File Explorer, Quick Access now. So in Quick Access, you just used to get the folders, but now you get pinned files and recent files. So a bit like on the Start menu where you get that recommended section. Mm-hmm. These are all recent files you've got, and then you can right-click and pin those as well, which I found really handy. So I've got my OneNote sort of folders and things pinned, so I can go straight to them and things like that. So I found that really good as well. And again, a minor change, but something that actually makes it useful. It makes this quick access, really useful. I don't know if I fire it up on my.
It's one of those things now. You say it's a minor change, but it's one of those things you use every day. And yeah, it's such a key part of the experience of what you do if you're handling files a lot. And yeah, I think this is really good. This is something I'd love to attend, to be honest.
So this is on Windows 11, the current version. So I've got my recent files, but if there was like my OneNote thing, I can't pin that to here. It's just recent ones, even though I've got one open at the moment. But yeah, you can right-click with the new version, right-click and pin that. So I found that really useful. So. Yeah, that's good. Also little things as well. OneDrive storage, you can click up here in File Explorer and it shows you OneDrive status as well, which I thought was pretty good. I mentioned those when I'm talking about the gestures as well, you can swipe up to bring up the quick actions, and it actually follows your finger. Same with the notifications, rather than it just you swipe across and it just appears, it follows your finger, so it makes it much more friendly as a touch user. It's it's smoothly scrolling across like it is on those animations I had. So I think that was pretty good. And there's even a full screen version of that as well. Definitely another favorite of mine, I don't you can see this on the share screen, is the new snap layout.
I love snap layouts.
Yeah. So this window I've got here now, this is on the current version of Windows 11. If I drag up to the top like that, it just goes full screen.
Yeah.
But if you notice, if I bring that back here, there you see, as you drag up now, same goes with the finger or the mouse, you get the little snap layouts. You can go straight up to the top and it'll expand full screen, or you can drag it up and it then picks up that snap layouts assistant, and you can do that, and that works really well on something like the Surface Go in tablet mode. So you can drag it up, and yeah, it just works exactly like that preview on there. But I think that's another nice little feature. Snap layouts is great, and having that sort of when you drag the window up like that, so it's hard to. I could show you on the tablet at the same time, but anyway, do like that. It's a nice feature. Can't show you on there at the moment.
They got the idea for that.
Yes, I wonder. Yeah, that was kind of funny that we were talking to the to the Power Toys team last week about what happens when features go back in there. But yeah, they Clint kind of mentioned that they did work together with that team, didn't they, on that? So, but that is a great tool. That. So it's kind of like a simplified version of Fantasy Zones. But the other thing that was in there is the power settings. I think they've made the power settings more aggressive on the battery save and or the consumption side of power settings. So I think it requires, Windows in general requires less power, which is probably a good thing as we're all trying to be better consuming power, especially on as prices go up and everything else. I think having more energy efficient laptops is a good thing. So
absolutely,
we've got that. Yeah, and the little hero banner there that shows the consumption levels as well. There was improvements to narrator, which they seem to work on all the time as well, which is impressive. I know some people, it's not something I use, but I think if it's one of those things, if you use narrator, then these improvements are definitely welcome. We've got the new task manager. I've got that on my machine. It supports dark mode, which is good, and it's got the sort of Windows 11 style with the menus down here, which looks quite nice. I know there's been a few bugs with it. People have seen it crashing and sort of reverting back to the old one, but that's probably by design in terms of we're testing this for insiders. And if it does crash, rather than just disappear, it just gives the old version, because Task Manager is one of those things you can't really live without, especially if you're doing a bit of insider testing. So it looks like that, and I thought that was quite good as well. And you even got things like you can. I think they had this. They said they had this last April, where you can right click on something and put it into efficiency mode. So if a process is using all your CPU, you don't want to kill it, but you don't want it to use all your CPU, you can right click and put it into efficiency mode. So it's kind of rate limiting it or throttling it without killing the task off. Which seems a good idea. Maybe you're doing some video processing in the background, and maybe you want to carry on using your machine, so you can sort of get it to chug along, but give you that response to when you're using it. That was one. There was some PowerShell changes. I won't go into those now, but that's what system admins and sort of like use PowerShell. I like PowerShell, so there's a lot of changes to that. There was a couple of things. One they mentioned here in passing, but drag and drop works back again on the taskbar. Now, if you've not used Windows 11, you probably haven't realised it's missing. But if you drag an icon from the desktop on top of an app in Windows 10, it will launch the app. So let's just say you've got Word open in the taskbar at the bottom and you've got a picture on your desktop and you drag that picture over the icon of Word and then release it. Word will open and the image will get pasted in. In Windows 10, it just doesn't work. And so Windows 11, that didn't work at all. It just doesn't do it. It gives you a little sort of no drag icon. Whereas, so that is back now as well. And that, I was surprised they only mentioned it in passing in changes improvements, because if you go on any of the Windows 11 Reddits, that's probably one of the top issues people complaining about from Windows 10 to Windows 11. So they've put that back in, which is good as well. And there's been some improvements in the sharing things. There's color profiles are in there now, which you can get through the start menu. Casting icon, I did notice that one pop up the other week when I was doing a bit of casting work, so that's there as well. Folder previews, images in folder previews now. Another thing that you kind of just think were there. So if you see, I've got my folders now. There's just folders. You can't see what's in
having
them.
that back is so much nicer. I'm not sure about the layout, but having it back is nice.
Yeah, it's quite large, isn't it? But I think if you depending on the full size. But yeah, those images are back now, which is good as well. So it looks like they're going through their list of Windows 10 features that were missing from Windows 11 that they need to put back in, and they're getting through those. Things like you can now directly create an email from File Explorer if you've got Outlook Desktop installed, and I don't really use that, but it was in there as well. And the Alt tabs have been improved. That's quite good actually. You can see that from this picture here, but when you do Alt tab, if you've got two grouped together, it shows you a little background like that, so you can see it clearly. Oh, and the other thing, it's rotation as well. So my tablet, you can see you can rotate it like that, and it's got a nice smooth rotation on it as well. So that makes it nice for tablet users. So there's quite a few things actually for tablets and for sort of Surface Go type devices. So there's a whole list of other changes as well, graphics and input methods of updated emojis. I know everybody loves updated emojis. Accessibility options, the micro material in the run box and other boxes. I think you have to turn off colored title bars to see that, but that's there as well. And there was the usual set of fixes and known issues. Probably the biggest change to Windows on a build for some time, I would say, is probably since the initial Windows 11 first releases. I can't remember that many changes on a Windows Insider build for some time, really. The other thing they do mention about recent apps shows up if you're using your phone. Interestingly, it's only the Samsung Galaxy. No mention of the Surface Duo. Bit of an own goal there, but I'm sure it'll probably get it next month or something like that. So those were all the changes with that build. I found that pretty stable actually, considering the amount of changes that you've got and all those new features that I've talked about. My Surface Go has been working pretty well. It's a bit on the sluggish side, I must admit now, but I think that's part that it's an original Surface Go. It's not even the second gen one, so it's not supported at all. But it has been working okay, and I think this build actually seemed to be a bit snappier than the previous one. So I don't know whether it's reset something, but it is pretty good. So Microsoft did mention a few weeks ago that they were going to sort of reopen the window so that beta and you could switch out of dev and go into the beta. So which must mean, and I think that all these features and builds, or not all these necessarily all of them, but a lot of these might get shifted to beta, and the build numbers might get aligned between beta and dev, and then that gives you the opportunity to switch then, and then the dev will go off on a higher build number, I guess, or something like that. So we'll see. But a lot of work from the Insider team there. So they're a few weeks off builds, and they really want your feedback. So I think they want insiders to get these features and supply feedback. It seems to be every time we speak to anybody from Microsoft now, it's feedback, and Clint was very keen on us mentioning that as well last week. So yeah, a lot for insiders to test there.
Yeah, good stuff. I mean, there are definitely some really interesting bits in there and stuff I will use on a daily basis. So if and when, as I say, I can get upgraded to Windows 11, because I still haven't got any of my main dev kit, which I can. It's just a shame. But
well, I say there's ways of doing it. You can do it so it's unsupported, but your mileage may vary, kind of thing.
And with something as important as the main dev kit stuff, I wouldn't want to do that.
Yes, exactly. I did see it was on the Windows Insiders Reddit, I think, that some people are seeing a watermark saying you're running on unsupported hardware. Now, I haven't seen that. So, like I mentioned before, Surface Go isn't supported. I ended up with Windows 11 because it's part of the Insider program. It was on the Insider program, Windows 10. And I don't have that, but you get the watermark because it's a dev build. But I've seen a couple of screenshots which says you're running on unsupported hardware. So Microsoft are going to push that a bit more, I think.
I think they are. I did have to laugh this week. I got one of those family support calls.
Oh, yes.
I won't name who from. And it was, my Windows is broken. The start menu's moved to the middle. Can't get it over to the left again. Yeah, that was funny. Actually, by the time they explained it, they used it a bit more. They actually liked the middle location, so I guess you get used to it very quickly.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shock because I guess it was a supported machine then that's just picked up the update, and they've somehow clicked update and off they go. They said it was an update,
said you just click the update, and they thought the update had broken their Windows.
Yeah, because the start menu is quite different, isn't it, when you first use that? I mean, yeah.
I can after using it for a little while, I can kind of see why they moved it to the middle, because it actually does mean if you think about where your mouse is spent most of the time. It's at the top right of Windows for closing them, minimizing them, expand them, and then you go back down. And if you're traveling, you can be traveling top right to bottom left an awful lot in that case. Whereas center actually makes it more sensible to get that. So,
and I think especially as people get large, widescreen monitors, then you're really traveling quite a long way, aren't you, to that left-hand side? Yeah. So yeah, I think it makes sense to have it in the center now. But so these are good updates, and I'm glad to see that Windows has got plenty of life in it left. Did you see that? I think it was one of the Twitter accounts, Swift on Security, made a joke about Windows 12 needing 2 TPMs. It was a joke, Windows 12 is going to need 2 TPMs. And then a lot of these clickbaity websites, Microsoft working on Windows 12. So I don't think that is the case. I think, and since then, Swift on Security has deleted that tweet because they said, well, it's just getting a bit out of hand, really, with people reporting about it. Insiders talking about Windows 12.
Yeah.
The other thing I saw as well is in that last set of release notes as well is you need a Microsoft account to set up Windows 11 Pro now.
You do.
Which wasn't the case before.
It wasn't the case before, and I've heard a lot of people, a lot of companies not happy about that.
Yeah, exactly, because I've worked with some companies that use things like Okta to manage the PCs. And they basically want a PC delivering to them as just factory reset, and then they pick it up with Okta. And they don't want to sign in with a Microsoft account because they want to apply all the Okta policies and everything else, and then it does the reboot, and then it's all locked down and everything. So that's a real pain if you've got to sign with a Microsoft account. And I've seen people saying there's ways around it, but like pull your network lead out or whatever at certain key points. But it just seems a bit crazy. I mean, I have no problem with the home machine. But at work, you're going to be putting it on a domain or something like that. But you may not always want it on the domain straight away. You may want to just log in with a local account, do some patching on it or whatever you want to do to it, some updates, and then join your domain. So I haven't seen it in a work. I know the enterprise version doesn't do it, but if you buy a Surface, Laptop Studio, it comes with Home. So yeah, even if you want to get Pro on there, you've got to either buy it through the business channel or upgrade it or whatever. So yeah, you're kind of locked into these accounts. So it's a bit strange though. So I'm not sure how enterprise machines will. I know some come with Windows 11 Enterprise. That won't be the case, but not all business ones do. They come with Pro, and then you join a domain or whatever. So I'll be interested to see what that's like actually in the wild, and whether Microsoft will backtrack on that, because it was mentioned in the build note, so it may not be a permanent thing. So we'll see what they come up with on that. So a good week for Windows inside of builds.
Yeah.
Anyway, the other thing I did post about last week, which I got around to sharing, was my video of Windows 8.2 or Windows 9. So I talked about this a couple of weeks ago. I got a build of 9780, which was the very first Windows 10 preview, but at the time it was called Windows 8.1, and some people speculated it was going to be 8.2. So I went through and did a little video on that. I remembered the start menu, which is the same as the one in Windows RT as well, so it brought some memories back. And in fact, it's hard to believe that there wasn't a start menu at all. It was the start screen, wasn't it? That you had full screen, start screen, or nothing. You didn't get that choice. So this was the first Windows 10 build to have that in. So you can check out that video if you enjoy the history of Windows. I'm not quite sure what next to do. I do like going back and installing these old builds. Hence why I need a device with bigger hard drive to install these on. So Windows 8.2. So so I've got a video of that. So I've got a video of the new build as well, and a video of the changes in Windows 11. So a few videos that I did last week. So on to some other things then. So it's that weekly time of the show where we ask Gary, what car did you get?
Gary still says, can't tell you. But I'm actually hoping tomorrow I'll have it confirmed that I will be getting a new car next week, which will actually be on time for recording the show. So I will definitely tell you next week. Regardless, if or not I don't get it or not, I'll tell you what I was hoping to get at that point. Actually, I had some good car tech this week. Actually, I haven't got it here, but I got sent through an AA wireless dongle. I don't know if you come across this, but if you've got Android Auto in a car, a lot of the modern cars have come without Android Auto wireless. I think it may be to do with the component shortage or something on setup or whatever. But even some of the really new cars, things like the Ioniq 5 and that, have not got Android Auto wireless in them. They've got wired Android Auto, but not wireless. But as long as you've got a wired Android Auto, the AA wireless dongle just plugs in. It's a little USB stick. It just plugs into the not a stick, it's USB cable with a little dongle bit on it. It plugs into the USB connector, and it looks to the car like the Android Auto device, and it handles the communication to your phone over the AA wireless protocol. So your phone thinks it's on Android Auto wireless, your car thinks it's Android Auto cable, and it just works. And it really does just work. I was really impressed with it, the setup. And I'd heard stories from people in the past that they'd had problems with setting this up. This is the latest firmware, the latest version. And it really was a 2-minute job to get it set up. It had a QR code on the box that I scanned, which downloaded the app. The app saw, as soon as the app told me what to do, told me to plug the device in. As soon as I plugged the device in, it saw it, connected to it, set it up, and away it went. And then and about 20 seconds later, Android Auto was set up and running the car. And what really amazes me on this is it connects faster than wired Android Auto does in the car with with my phone. My phone takes 40-50 seconds in loose MG to connect up. My with Android AA wireless, it's about 20 seconds. So it's almost half the time to actually load, which is just incredible. And it's way more. There's a bit of reputation with the MG ZS that it doesn't always connect properly. So Android Auto. Sometimes you have to unplug the cable, plug it in, it's back in again, which is right. But this always connects every single time, and it's really fast. The resolution's great. Everything works on it. I've tried a few other boxes over time. There's one which I've been using, Link AI, and I think I mentioned this on the show before, which uses sort of pseudo CarPlay. So it impersonates an iPhone effectively, and does a similar thing. But it's a full Android box. So you've got Android. You can do anything you can do with full Android. You don't have to write Android Auto. You can actually run Android Auto on it, but you don't have to. But that has a few issues and frustrations, in that things like it doesn't do dark mode. It always thinks it's in London, no matter where I am in the country. When you use Google to ask questions, whereas the AA wireless just works all the time and is solid and actually gives you exactly what you'd expect it to do. Maps work, GPS works fine, and it's all driven off the phone as Android or something. But
yeah. That's quite interesting, that, because my car, it supports Android Auto wireless, and it worked perfect with the Samsung phone. It worked with the Duo when I enabled dev mode, and doesn't work at all with the Duo 2. It thinks it's all there. It lets you connect. You do to connect, and then it just says can't connect, retry or fail.
It's interesting to try the Duo 2 with the way AA wireless, because it certainly seems much more reliable than with my Samsung phone. So, but obviously Samsung works in yours anyway in the first place. But yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a shame because I kind of miss it now. I never used it for ages, and then started to use it, and now I kind of miss it again. But a lot of the stuff in the car is already replicated. But there are some things like Spotify is better on Android than it is in the car version, for it remembering way up to in podcasts and things. So I kind of do miss it for that.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, people ask me why would you want wireless Android Auto? Because you're going to plug the phone in to charge it. Well, you're not necessarily, because a lot of cars now come with two chargers. So all the ones I've been looking at have all had chargers as an option. And then why would you want to plug in Android Auto? So it makes sense to have a wireless. If you've got a wireless charger in the car, why haven't you got wireless connectivity for the Android Auto?
Well, I never bother charging my Duo up in the car, but if I'm driving half an hour to work, I don't need to charge it, but I do use the Spotify app and maybe Google Maps and things to check the traffic.
Because that hasn't got wireless charging, has it? No. You would plug it, you're going to charge it.
But I don't bother to plug it in. It doesn't need to. It's got enough charge in it. So actually, I do miss the wireless. And in fact, the wired doesn't work at all. I don't think I've ever got the wired to work. So on any phone. Yeah. So it might be worth trying that.
I think. Definitely. I think that's a really good product, and the CarPlay Link AI, I think it's actually quite good as well if you want full Android, because sometimes you don't want to run Android Auto because you can't run some of the functionality. I'm thinking some of the navigation apps are way better in full Android than they are on Android Auto, because unfortunately Android puts stupid restrictions on people writing programs for Android Auto. I know why they're there for the safety side of things, but they still are in some cases fairly silly restrictions in terms of how much you can display on screen and information you can display on screen. But anyway, but the other thing I wanted to mention was a friend of mine, Andy Van Til, has put a really good video up on YouTube about what happened in the storms this week with his vehicle, where he basically was powering the street from his car, effectively. Well, at least he was cooking for people and running kettles and making sure nobody starved during the power cuts they were having. So I highly recommend people have a look at that. It's a really good video, and Andy is a very, very good speaker about what he's talking about. So I'm trying to remember what his channel is actually called. Mr. EV, that's the one. I'll send you the link so you can include the show.
Yeah, it's interesting that sort of you've got a giant battery sat on your drive or whatever, so you can use that. Then that's actually really it's another benefit.
Yeah, and it does a lot of very good things. Actually, the best thing about Andy's channel is his wife, who's amazing. Italian lady who's got very strong opinions and very entertaining.
Yeah, I'll include that link in the show notes then, because it's worth watching. Because we've had a few storms here. Fortunately, we didn't lose the power, but I know some people have done. So having that option is pretty good, really.
Yeah, and then the other thing Andy's done is he's definitely proved you can travel long distances in an EV, because he's done Land's End to John O'Groats a couple of times. And in quicker times each time he's done it, so it's quite interesting to see that actually done with an EV. So definitely worth watching.
Definitely is. I'll include a link for that. We'll have to wait till then next week then to see.
I think people are starting to guess, and they're getting some pretty good guesses. So I think I think we're whittling it down. I did post to my iPace video on my YouTube channel last week, because the iPace has gone back. I'm personally carless this week, last week, but obviously I was happy to have a car when that went back, and I was hoping to be able to tell people what I'd got, but unfortunately that didn't quite happen. Still this component issue, and just it's so difficult to buy a car now. There was an article this week which was showing that you cannot buy an EV off the shelf now. There's just no way you can get one without pre-ordering it, and it's going to take at least 3 months to get one of all the new ones. So about the only one which you'll be able to get fast, possibly faster than that, is some of the Teslas which are coming in, because they've got stock. So if you order a Tesla Model Y now, for example, you'll get one in May, which is not too bad compared to some of the other ones. But Model 3s, I think you can get slightly quicker than that, but that's only because they brought loads and loads of stock over, because they know they can sell them. But the rest of the, also because they're vertically integrated, so they're not quite so reliant on some third-party components. But the other manufacturers are really struggling to actually produce anything and actually get them anyway. And you're noticing that even the newer models, we mentioned this before, but newer models are starting to even lose features again. So it's stuff which is being launched this year, like the Ioniq 5 we just mentioned. The next model, the Ioniq 5, loses features. It loses some of the lane keeping type, not lane keeping, but some of the highway assistance stuff. So the version 2 of the highway assistance, which has got things like being able to automatically change lanes for you, goes away in the newer version, because they haven't got the components for it. It doesn't just affect EVs, but it's more noticeable with EVs, I think, because they're in short supply anyway. It's becoming very difficult. People obviously want EVs because every single one of them's on back order. It's just it's crazy. And the values of second-hand cars are just out of this world at the moment. You can get you can keep a car for a year and sell it for more than you actually paid for it. It's just crazy.
So it's quite. It was like one in 5 cars are worth more after a year. So it's quite a substantial amount of cars are reselling for more than they were purchased for.
And that's particularly true of EVs. EVs are such a premium because people want a new EV. They're prepared to have a 1-year-old one if it's lowish. But see, low mileage on an EV compared to low mileage on a petrol car or diesel car is a completely different kettle of fish. Low mileage on an EV is probably 50k. It's not going to really have had any problems in that. But it's definitely a interesting world on the vehicle market at the moment. Just another bit of EV news this week. I see Instavolt have been acquired by another venture capital. It's the Swedish. Let me just double check. But they were actually already financed by a venture capital company in the UK who were specifically set up to fund EV charger rollout. This is a longer term thing. They've been acquired by EQT Infrastructure, which is a quite well known capital firm for funding infrastructure projects and particularly around EV. And Fortunately, they seem to take a quite long-term approach in there. Look at stuff. They don't want an instant profit, which I think would be really good for Instavolt. It's been noticeable that Instavolt have been very closely following the trend on price rises for power. Some of the other charging point operators haven't changed quite so quickly, and that's probably because they've been unable to fund things very well. This should give them quite a good injection of cash. So they are one of our favourite charging networks, and I think that hopefully that will remain with us. So I know some people were worried when they heard that they were being acquired, but I think this is actually probably one of the best people who could have acquired them.
Yeah, it's changing. So it's a lot of consolidation and a lot of focus on this area now. So this always happens. You get a lot of small divisions and small companies, and you end up with the big guys left and the successful ones left at the end, I suppose.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, this injection of capital in Instavolt could mean that Instavolt could acquire other some of the smaller charge point operators because they have the money behind them to do that potentially. I'm not saying they will, but that's a possibility going forward. So yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think it's good. It's better than them not having money, because they're one of the few networks which tends to work all the time.
Which is a big thing, isn't it? If you know, you're always going to head to one that you know works.
Yeah, and I've said that a lot now. I never have range anxiety now. What I do have sometimes is charger anxiety. Is the charger going to be working when I actually arrive at it? And I think that's got to change. There was a lot of investment in capital for actually getting capital installations done, but there hasn't been so much support for maintenance and like. And I think there should have been some more structure put in place, perhaps some more regulation put in place for that. If you get government money for funding an installation, you should have to maintain it for 15, 20 years or whatever. I think that would have been something they should have put in place, but they didn't, and we're not going to go back and think so. So there's a lot of the original chargers were installed by councils and the like, which just have been broken for ages because there's no money to maintain them, which is a shame because some of those are in really good locations. So, but we'll see what happens.
And I suppose if they get transferred to private ownership, you're going to be paying for it, but at least then it's going to be working.
Yeah, and actually, around where you are, up in Manchester, that's actually happened. The network, which was in Manchester, which was council and also Polo Charge a Car, I think the people had gone downhill a lot, and BEV came in, and they are now charging for use, which wasn't the case before, but it's working, and when I was up there, plugging in was really easy. So I think that's a huge step forward when that happens. I don't actually mind paying for charging reasonable amounts of money, but it's good that they are reliable. So I think we'll see some changes in that sphere. As you say, I think we are totally up for some consolidation in that market. It's a big play. It's a big market. I mean, you're seeing so many people coming into the charging hub world at the moment. I know 5 or 6 companies in the last few weeks have announced that they're doing charging hubs, and there's simply some of those are going to win, some of those are going to lose, and we'll see what happens there. There's some interesting approaches to that as well. There's a company who are going to brand themselves as EV Cafe and launch literally cafes, a bit like the old Little Chef type franchises. That sort of food and drink level, but with chargers outside them. But because they are going to be places you'll stay for a while, there may be slower chargers. So that's the trade-off they got on there. So they can put more chargers in. So I think the idea is that every parking space on these would actually have a charger. So which is an interesting concept. So I think there's definitely some interesting things coming along, and we have reached the tipping point with EVs. And there's recent surveys showing more people actually want to buy EVs and buy diesels. So going forward, and sales certainly show that as well. So I think we've reached the tipping point. The infrastructure is going to follow. It's just taking a bit longer than I would like.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's getting there. It's interesting that cafe idea is kind of, if you know that you can go there and guaranteed to get parked and some food, then it kind of makes it worthwhile destination. Then that you plan your route, your traveling plans around it.
Yeah, and better than services potentially. I think that's the thing. I think a lot of people don't rate the services that much.
Yeah.
Someone has to stop. So yeah, and these will be on major roads as well. So it's interesting. I mean, you've got a whole lot. We've mentioned GridServe in the past. Who've got interviewed them, and they've got their hubs, and they're about to open their Norwich one very shortly, which will be again another great destination point, stopping off point, especially if you go into the coast in Norfolk. That's sort of a hole in charging. But I noticed that they're launching theirs, and there's loads more in Norwich starting to come off from different manufacturers as well. So it's you suddenly get these holes get filled in very rapidly when people realise that. So yeah, it's interesting to see. But next week I will hopefully be able to tell you. Well, I will definitely tell you what I was going for, even if I don't get it. I will have it by next week.
Yeah, that'll be good. Right, so where can we go then to follow you to find out as you're going through the process?
Yeah, so follow me on Twitter at Garry WMA. That's Garry 2 R's WMA. I'll tell you all about it.
Yeah, and of course your YouTube channel, your iPace owner, you'll be able to actually fill it with some content. I bet you're dying to get something recorded.
Oh yeah, I'm down. So I've renamed it now as well, of course, because it won't be an iPace. I have actually said that in the last vlog I put out. It's definitely not going to be an iPace because I just couldn't get one to the spec I wanted. So without waiting a year, which wasn't technically feasible. So it's now the EV owner channel, which is going to be, that's out there as well. So. Someone asked me the other day, what does WMA stands for? I think it stands for What's My Auto.
Oh, that's what it is now. Not Windows Media Audio anymore.
What's My Auto?
That's true. Well, we should be back at the same place next week when we'll find out more, and you can find out how I get on with the laptop studio when I've set that up tomorrow. I can talk about that as well, and why the box. It's really heavy. Must be. I think it's the power supply. It's actually really, when you get a laptop, it's a lot heavier than I was expecting. So, find out about that next week. So I'm at iStixon on Twitter, and we'll see you next week.
Excellent. Take care.